Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports. If you haven't hit the subscribe button ready, please do hit the subscribe button. Now, if you look on BWTM Sports, you'll see something very different on the channel itself. You'll see a members only section where we have our new videos. If you go across now, hit the join button and you'll be part of the paid membership section. So for $2.99 a month, you can be part of the gang. Join the gang, get the exclusive videos, get access to live streams, private streams, and moreover, a better quality experience on YouTube with BWTM. Okay, let's get cracking. The picture here is Terence Crawford with Errol Spence. A video or a topic that's quite high around a lot of boxing communities at the moment. Me, myself, I'm not so high on it, and I'll explain why. Now, for those of you who do or don't know my history of Terence Crawford, Bud Crawford, I knew when he was up and coming, and on the channel we interviewed him twice. Once before he fought Ricky Burns for the world title, and then just after he fought, I can't remember the guy's name again. The guy he went up to light welterweight and fought that had beat Prescott. After he beat Prescott, we interviewed him then. That was the first time I spoke to Crawford, and he got a knack on seeing fighters and knowing a good fighter, and I thought this guy was something special. And of course, he's gone on to be a superstar in boxing in terms of what he's done and accomplished, undisputed lightweight, and moved up and has done some great things. So full credit to Terence Crawford for that, and he's done it quite impressively. But I have to say that I wasn't impressed when I actually got to see him in the flesh, despite reaching out to him on numerous occasions. The actual not really wanting to engage, but I understand it. I get it. I'm not naive. I was naive at the time, but now I get it because I understand the sport a lot more better and the people behind the scenes. Now, on the other hand, here's Errol Spence. Now, I've never met Errol Spence, but I have met his trainer, Derek James, in the flesh, and we've spoken many occasions, and Derek James is almost like family to me. A lot of time for Derek James, and I'm sure if I met Errol, he'd sure be the same as well. The thing is this. Some people... Now, Terence Crawford, from what I've gathered, from what I've noticed, is a very quiet kind of man. Not the kind of man who's rowdy and makes a whole heap of noise. He didn't really engage much when I did the interviews with him then, and he wasn't one of the guys I think he's had to engage now because of the situation. Spence was quite much the same as well, but he's got it. He gets it. He understands it. And with that, fortunately for Spence, he's with PBC, and their way of promoting fighters is very different to how Crawford is being promoted. And I'll explain it like this. Crawford, to me, every time Crawford fights, he's becoming less and less relevant. When Spence fights, he's becoming more and more relevant. His fight against Mikey Garcia, yeah, well, people say, well, Mikey Garcia was a lightweight and all the rest of it. But a lot of people knew who Mikey Garcia was. People knew who Spence was. People knew who Kell Brook was. People knew who Spence was. People knew who Porter was. People knew who Spence is. Then you see you've got the Crawford fight against Khan. Well, people knew what Khan was about, but people knew that Khan was, he'd got beaten up several times already and knocked out several times already. So the story was, the verdict was pretty out on Khan. Flattened by Canelo, stopped by Danny Garcia, the Prescott fight, the various knockdowns by previous opponents. So he was very much shop-worn by the time that Crawford got to him. So I'm not slating Crawford's performance here. Please hear me out here. But you see, Spence, after his fight against Porter, it was such a good fight. Some people thought Porter nicked it. Fair enough. I'm not here to argue about that. But it still was a fight. It was two guys in their prime meeting one another, two champions fighting, and two of the best in the world. And nobody would argue that Sean Porter wasn't one of the best in the world, and nobody would argue that Errol Spence is not one of the best in the world. So they met one another head on and they fought. You had Thurman versus Garcia. You've had Thurman versus Porter. You've had Pacquiao versus Bruno. You've had Pacquiao versus Thurman. A lot of fights happening at PBC, and the thing is, it keeps it all sort of relevant. Crawford over in Top Rank. Let's get it straight. Get it straight. Get it understood. Understand the agenda. Lomachenko has achieved less than Crawford as a pro, but he gets more promotion than Crawford. How much promotion did Crawford get for his last fight? Did anyone care for the last fight? It was an irrelevant fight. The only thing people are asking for is, can this guy beat Spence? Can this guy beat Spence? Can this guy beat Spence? And every time he fights now, it's can he beat Spence? That's all I want to know. And this A-side, B-side stuff, well, that's a myth as well, because Deontay Wilder is walking right across from A-side to B-side to fight. Wilder is fighting Fury. Wilder being PBC, Fury being Top Rank. So it's happening. But let me show you something else here. When you look at Terence Crawford, his handlers and his people around him don't care for his career the way I look at it. They care for their pockets. Understand me when I say this. They care for their pockets, and they care for their careers, and they care for about being seen with Crawford, but they don't care about this man's career. They really don't. They will keep him in insignificant fights and fights going nowhere against nobodies or who cares. They'll do that with Crawford. They'll manage Lomachenko's career differently. It's not like Crawford can't fight now. We know he can fight. Why didn't they let him cross over and fight Porter and Thurman? Surely it's better for his career, or is there something wrong with that? Is it really that bad? Is there more to it that Bob Arum won't do business with Al Heyman? I don't know. But I know one thing. There was a reason why Mayweather ended up leaving him. And when he left him, his career took off. All right? So understand that. He left Bob Arum to make his career happen. And if Crawford is very serious about his career, he needs to leave Top Rank. It's as simple as that. Leave Top Rank, join PBC. Leave Top Rank, join PBC. And then you'll fight all the best fighters in the world, and you'll make a ton more money than you ever will make at Top Rank. And you'll get looked after better at PBC than you ever will get looked after at Top Rank. Trust me, because the people that are handling you are only about handling themselves. That's all it is. That's the fact. Whereas people are Spence and people who are handling Spence are more interested about handling the fighter and looking after the fighter. There's a difference. That's from what I'm seeing. I'm not saying that every PBC fighter. There are some guys that have been at PBC, it hasn't worked out for them. But for the most part, you know, and they've all been delivered big fights. They've all been delivered back big fights. Spence's 2 fights, Garcia and against Porter, makes him more relevant than Crawford. Crawford is, who cares? He's irrelevant. Although he's a WBO champion, he's irrelevant. In these fights, every time he has these irrelevant fights, or fights that really don't matter, against guys you know he's going to beat, his market rate goes down. Spence's market rate is through the roof at the moment. So Spence doesn't need Crawford. Crawford needs Spence. Spence has already had 2 big fights. What's the biggest fight that Crawford's been in? Somebody talk to me about the biggest fight Crawford's been in his career. Amir Khan? The unification fight? Would you call them really big fights? But then you look at the guys that Porter's been in the ring with. The guys he's fought, from Kell Brook to Keith Thurman to Adrian Broner. He's fought the who's who of the division. Mikey Garcia, 4-weight world champion. You know, decorated champion. Mikey Garcia's fought Broner and many other fighters. So, you know, when you look at a guy like Terence Crawford, I'm not knocking Crawford. One of his most exciting fights was against Gamboa, I've got to say. But again, who's Crawford's next fight? Who cares about Crawford's next fight? If it isn't against a PBC guy, who cares? The only other fight I'd like to see Crawford in now is against Ray Robinson. And the reason why I say Ray Robinson is because Ray Robinson beat him as an amateur. And Ray Robinson said on our channel, in terms of beating Crawford, the way you beat Crawford is to make him fight on his emotions And we know that Crawford is an emotional guy. So he beat him as an amateur. And how he beat him as an amateur, because the way he beat him as an amateur was because he fought on emotions. So you're hearing a lot of stuff of Crawford going back and forth with Spence. I ask one question. Why are you going back and forth with Spence now? Why weren't you going back and forth with Spence after you fought Mikey Garcia? Why did you have to go back and forth with Spence? Why have you gone back and forth with Spence now when the guy's come out of a car crash and he had injuries? Why now? Because it's vulnerability. Let's get him now while he's injured. Let's get him now. To me, that's very punkly. That's the typical, that's the way these people think. The mindset of these people. Let's get on Spence now. He's injured. Get on him now. Let's get him now. Let's have a risk now. We can beat him now. That's how it works. Pick a fighter when he's at his most vulnerable point and jump on him. I guarantee you now, if Spence hadn't had that car accident, you won't be hearing Crawford and his team rearing up as they are now. I'm telling you now. Because if Crawford really is about all that, take the Porter fight. Take the Porter fight. Porter's healthy. He's good. He's not in no car crash. He's ready to fight. And he can go and fight. Crawford could introduce himself to the PBC lot by fighting the gatekeeper Porter. Fight Porter. And then after you fight Porter, and Spencer's got himself up and fully functional and back and good to go, then you can get the fight. But don't go running around and say, oh, I'll fight Spence now. Or we'll agree to fight and make a phone call. Why, what, you didn't know his telephone number beforehand? No, I don't buy any. I personally don't buy any of that stuff. I don't buy any of that stuff. You see how Fury and Wilder are fighting for this rematch now? That's how it should be. Both guys in their prime. Well, Fury's as good as he's ever going to get. And Wilder's in his prime. So that's what it is. So that's the way I see it. I'm not getting caught up in all this. Well, Crawford said this and Spence said that and Crawford said no. Listen, when the man was well and there was no car crash, no cars, there was all this mumbling and jumbling and talking, but nothing was going, nothing was happening. If you really are a man of what you say you are, fight Porter. Show us, fight Porter. Why do you have to fight Porter? Well, he's a PBC guy and he's ready to go. Fight Porter. And they'll give us a gauge. They'll give us a gauge as to where you are with the Spence fight. They fight different, but still. A nice, big, strong, powerful welterweight with some knowledge and know-how. And ain't going to be scared or intimidated by you or, experienced pro who's not at the end of his career and he's just had a really good fight against Spence and arguably could have beaten Spence. So let's see if Crawford wants that kind of heat. So I don't know what the ins and outs are between Porter's camp and Crawford's camp. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I'm sure somebody will correct me on it. But that's the way I see it. I'm not interested, to be honest. I don't like this stuff of guys jumping on other guys when they're in a weak point or they've had a loss in their career or in Spence's case, he's had a car accident. And clearly, when we saw him at that PBC, when they did the interview with him, he didn't look all there. And he don't know if it was his mouth and his teeth or he was drunk. I don't know what he was. But another thing I want to say, I don't know what it is about Spence, but I'm seeing him more often drunk than not drunk, and that's a concern. So I hope his New Year's resolution is not to be seen drunk here. I don't mind you getting drink here and there, but you drunk every time I'm seeing you. You drunk stumbling to press conferences. You drunk in the ring. You look half drunk when when the cameras are on you. Sounds like a guy's getting some internal issues, but I could be wrong there, and I hope I am wrong. I want to see Spence fighting fit and to the best he possibly can be, and then those two, Crawford and Spence, fight. Really, that's it. That's my thoughts on that. Again, it's not probably what people want to hear, but it's how I feel about it. But Crawford, you need to move from them people at top rank. They're not good for you. They don't care about you. Trust me, they don't care about you. They care for themselves and their pockets, and you're just another body. That's the way I see it. But again, we'll see. I'm out. Take care.